Okay, so it's 9:20 a.m. Yeah, 9:20 a.m. Saturday morning, September 6, 2025. I'm on my way to meet Ken Slocum from the Clayton County Conservation Board. Got up at 7 a.m., started driving. Never trust Google Maps. It's always going to take you longer than it says. But anyway, here is where I'm at. Sun's kind of bright here, but Clayton County Motor Mill Historic Park. That is where I'm heading. So, heading down that little country road right over there. So come around the corner and all of a sudden I'm no longer in the cornfields or the monocrop fields. Oh, such a nice change of pace to be in the woods. Yeah, this is really wild. So like suddenly we're out of farm country, even though I had noticed there was rolling hills after you got north of, I think, a town that was called Manchester, but now you've got cliffs. Well, not cliffs, but like rocky bluffs. Just suddenly the land's just different here. Not sure why. But yeah, it's a really interesting place. I'm just kind of tinkering around while waiting for Ken. I've still got about 20 minutes till he shows up, so I'm just doing some exploring here. Mostly though, I am just so shocked at how much the landscape changed as soon as I came over the hill, and basically it happened right after I crossed the scenic byway for, I think it was called the River Bluff Scenic Byway. And I'm heading back towards the campsite here. Look at this. Look at this pretty place. This little meadow. And then straight up ahead is the dispersed camping area. Did I say the left? I meant the right. Just got the single camper over there right now. Okay, check this out. This is just absolutely gorgeous. And then right across the river, there is a creek coming out of the side of the cliff, dumping straight into the river. Dang, that is cool. And there's your microphone.
Thank you.
All right. And I'm just off camera over here. Okay, so we are here today with Kenny
Slocum.
And Ken, just go ahead and introduce who you are and what you do here and
Sure.
where we are.
So we are at the Motor Mill Historic Site, which is property of the Clayton County Conservation Board, who I work for. I'm the naturalist and natural resource manager, so I do a little bit of our environmental education and a little bit of our habitat stewardship, kind of split 50-50.
Okay. And actually, my first question on the top of my mind is, as I was driving north to come here from Iowa City, I noticed after Manchester, the land started to get a little bit hillier. And then once I crossed the Iowa River Bluff Scenic Byway, is that what it's called?
Rivers and Bluffs Scenic Byway.
I exited that brief, I was only on there for like a quarter of a mile, and then I think I turned on to Galaxy.
Yep.
And then I came up this dirt road up a hill, and as soon as I dropped down the other side of that hill, suddenly everything was different, landscape-wise. Can you tell me what's going on here? Why is it so pretty here?
Why is it? Because we're lucky. So this is what's called the Paleozoic plateau, which in bigger landscape terms is part of what we call the Driftless area. So it's a part of southeast Minnesota, northeast Iowa, a little bit of northwest Illinois, and most of it is in southwest Wisconsin. So from Madison approximately to here. And what that is a stretch that during the last ice age, the glaciers split and went around us here.
Oh.
So what you were driving through, that flat space you were driving through, was where the ice sheet had scoured it flat, like most of the rest of Iowa.
Whoa.
So just quirks of the geology that are still kind of getting uncovered as to why exactly it missed this spot in the last go-round. But what you end up with is 40 miles from here, you had this giant sheet of ice. As that melted, you got a tremendous amount of meltwater passing through what was at the time relatively level terrain, and so you get this heavily dissected plateau effect where you have extremely rugged, steep river valleys like we've got here with the Turkey River. And it creates all these unique habitats. That's why you've got all that exposed rock, because where the rest of Iowa is overlain with like many feet of glacial till and then topsoil on top of that, all of that never was deposited here, and then what was here was scoured away by the melt after that thing.
So that means then, or does it mean that before the most recent glacier era, that more of the land looked like here?
Probably. So
okay.
That's
hard to know, I guess.
Yeah. Nobody took a picture. But we do know that this part of Iowa was at least glaciated in previous ice ages, so it would have been flat originally.
Oh, okay.
So it does look a little different when you get over into southwest Wisconsin, which is why that's considered the true driftless area.
Okay.
Drift referring to glacial drift.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, in this little corner right here.
Yep.
What is the reason we're meeting here? There's something specific that when you first messaged me after you saw my message on Iowa Prairie Network.
Yes.
Let's go to there.
Yes.
You mentioned you threw out this term that I'd never heard before, and you were very excited. What is that term?
Which one? I get excited about a lot of terms.
Algific, I think.
Talus Algific slope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's what got me here today.
Yeah. So, and you were asking about the spring we saw over there, the water coming out of the side of the hill.
Yes.
So one of the functions of having this landscape get dissected is once it gets to a certain point, that water, that down cutting, is going to pass through a water table. So you have a water table that all of a sudden we've gone past it with the down cutting, and you get the water springing out of the sides of these hills.
So basically you're cutting into a seam like an aquifer seam.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So it creates all these kind of unique conditions, and we have a karst topography here, which happens to a lot of limestone, is loosely acidic groundwater, starts dissolving pockets in the earth.
Oh.
So the Talus Algific slopes are a very unique habitat that doesn't exist, we think, really anywhere else. Maybe West Virginia has kind of an analog. But what happens is, because you have the ridge tops here that are very sunny and open, you have that dissected plateau creates really steep faces. So now you have a north-facing slope that never gets direct sunlight.
Oh.
It's connected to a sinkhole up on top that lets water in.
Okay.
During the winter, that water freezes. It never melts all the way in the summer. So you have basically an ice box created in these things.
Whoa.
So, yes. So in most cases, they will really have, and when you talk to Beth, she'll go into more detail about this. She's actually gone through with temperature probes, and the surface of those Talus Algific slopes really never gets above like 55 degrees.
Holy smokes.
You have basically the ice age persisting, because you have essentially glaciers underground.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Yes. And so it comes with all these unique creatures, some of which don't exist anywhere else. My favorite one is the Pleistocene snail. I don't know if you got into that.
I've never heard of this before.
Most people haven't. So,
wait, is this a living creature?
It is a living creature.
From the Pleistocene?
From the Pleistocene. So,
Pleistocene.
The story goes, this gentleman, very famous Iowa naturalist, Bohumil Shimmick, in the early 20th century, he was poking around on one of these Talus Algific slopes, and he was collecting snails, because that's what people did back then, because they didn't have anything else to entertain themselves. So he's out collecting snails, and he sees this one he doesn't recognize. He goes, well, that's interesting. Into the collection she goes, and he forgets about it, dies. 30 years later in the 50s, somebody's looking through his collection that he had made. Somebody, I believe it's from some scientific institution out in Chicago. They were doing a study. And they go through and they find this snail, Discus maclintockii, and they're like, he collected this alive? That's been extinct for 10,000 years.
Get out.
The only place it still exists is on the Talus Algific slopes here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Weird, right?
Holy smokes. Wow.
So this site, one of the reasons I was so excited about this site is it's one of our highest quality goat prairies over here, which is essentially the desert. There's short grass. In some places around here, they're growing prickly pear cactus on them, and it's literally right there couple hundred feet as the crow flies on the other side is one of these extinct talus algific
So like
slopes.
where you're pointing to behind you,
Yep.
that is a talus algific slope.
I think
sort
that it
of.
was.
Okay.
So because they're kind of complex,
We're hedging, but it could be.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, when you say goat prairie,
Yep.
I'm from the East Coast, so I
Yeah.
automatically just think that means a place where you graze goats.
That's exactly right.
Oh, it is.
Yep.
Okay.
So
okay.
they're called that because that's the only livestock you could have gotten onto them would be goats.
Oh,
because
why-
they're so steep.
Oh.
So they're the other side of that dissected plateau effect.
Okay.
Where we've got this. So there, the north-facing slopes, the talus algific slopes,
Yeah.
never get any sun.
Okay.
They're super hot and dry on the south face because they're getting direct sunlight all the time.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so you can just really see the big difference between
Yes.
what's happening on one slope versus the other.
Correct.
Okay. So, and actually just for fun, a little bit of history before we hike up the hill.
Yeah.
Tell us about that building. I'm just going to turn the camera here a little bit. There you go. That
Yeah.
building behind you there.
Yes.
What's a brief history of that?
So that ties into all of this as well. This is Motor Mill, was built in 1867 to function as a grist mill. 6 stories tall, was state of the art at the time, cost $3 million to build in today's dollars, went belly up after 10 years. So they built it here because we're at this pinch point in the Turkey River, so we've got a tremendous velocity of flow through here to power the turbines that powered the whole operation.
Yeah.
You have the cold air vents coming out of the hillside to make your ice houses to keep
Okay,
things nice and cool.
what's a cold air vent?
Kind of similar to the talus algific slopes, but not ice.
So it's not man-made.
It's not man-made. It's just the cracks and fissures in the rock will, if you get a big enough cavity in these
Okay.
places,
Okay.
the temperature in there is eventually going to approximate the year-round average.
Okay.
So it's going to stay, for here in Iowa, that's 48 to 52 degrees.
So it's just really cool air
Yep.
seeping out of the hillside. Makes it a
Exactly.
good place to store ice.
Good place to store
Okay.
ice. The
Okay.
inn, when we had this open this year, we didn't have to turn the air conditioning on in there until like late July,
Wow.
because it just that
Wow.
you've got the regular moderating effect. But so then it gets even better.
Yeah.
They quarried the rock from the top of the hill to be here, got the timber from the top of the hill to be here, and they're thinking back behind us here we've got this floodplain
Uh-huh.
everywhere. They're thinking this would be a wonderful spot to have our wheat fields. Part of the function of having really steep terrain like this is when we get a heavy rainfall event, this river becomes very flashy.
Yeah.
So frequent flooding eventually wiped it out.
Okay.
Couple that with a chinch bug infestation, because even though we're in a floodplain and you would think this is really good soil, it's not. It's really sandy.
Okay.
So it's one of those things where it made perfect sense if you didn't understand the landscape, because it
Yeah.
was 1867.
Yeah.
And Iowa had only been a state for 30 years.
Wow.
So it's one of you see now nobody lives here. We don't farm here. This is why it's so important to understand what these places were and what their ecological function
Right.
should have been. So
Wow.
you're not going to grow crops here because they're going to get wiped out.
Uh,
What's going to thrive here? Sand prairies that can deal with
Yeah.
intermittent stages of flooding.
so we're going to walk up the hill here.
Yeah.
What are we heading towards? We're heading towards the goat prairie.
Yeah, we're going to go up onto what's called the Robert Grau Memorial Savannah. So kind of more common is, I don't know if you've spent time like central and western Iowa talking to those folks yet.
No, not yet.
So we always talk about how, X percentage of Iowa used to be prairie. In this corner in the Paleozoic plateau,
Yeah.
because of that rugged terrain, it's a little more complicated than that. We had more oak woodland, oak savanna, but different grades of what we would call sunny ecosystems
Okay.
that were fire dependent, just like the prairie. Sunny, really diverse herbaceous vegetation, but because of those,
So when we
Big-
think of prairie,
yeah,
it was different here.
yes.
Okay.
Because of that topography, you have
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of microclimates and places that can grow trees because they're protected from fire. Places,
Yeah, and you
versus big flat, you let a prairie fire go, it's going to keep going.
And you had mentioned something about this in our phone conversation that I want to mention before I forget. You had said you feel like it's important. Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so
Sure.
of course we can edit this out.
Yeah.
But you had said something about what's happening here with it being so different from slope to slope could be important for prairie restorationists to think about.
Yes.
Go
Yes.
go in on that.
So we've done wonderfully I think, to restore prairie in Iowa. It's something people understand, they're passionate about, but I think we use that as an umbrella term, and it's really a lot more complicated than that. So this prairie here that's going to get intermittently flooded like pretty violently by this river, and then it's going to go years without it, that's very different than just a flat black soil prairie in central Iowa.
Okay.
And you get up on a terrace up here and it's super sandy, it's dry, it's well drained. So if I'm taking the same, call it Mesic prairie mix from name a distributor,
right,
and I put it here, and I put it here, and I put it here, in all these different spots, well, no wonder it doesn't work half the time.
Yeah, because I think I'm going to make an assumption that to the layperson who gets excited about planting native seeds, they probably order a bunch of native seeds, and then they're hoping, oh, I will grow this here.
Yes.
But it's not like the same seed application for the entire state's going to work, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, there's a lot more to consider.
But it gets planted that way.
Yeah,
and that's one of the beautiful things about visiting remnant prairies is Dr. Tom Rosberg from Drake University had a great quote. I remember one time that it really should be that I should get dropped in any corner of Iowa being blindfolded, and as a botanist, I should know where I am.
Wow.
It's that distinct when you go to these places.
Okay.
But that's not what's happening in our reconstructions.
Oh, wow.
So
wow,
we're missing something there, and when we lose those remnants, we lose something really beautiful about the diversity of this state.
Wow. So we're still just really learning a lot. Like there's still so much to learn about what was here and what can work.
Same guy has a great quote in his email signature. Ecology is not rocket science. It's much more complicated than that.
Okay, just while we're here, just one other thing I want to talk about. Move about 5 feet to your side there. I just want to get the river here.
Sure.
Now, just because we're here chatting about river, chatting in general, I had asked you before I started rolling the cameras, this water is so pretty. I wish I brought my paddleboard, and I was assuming because it's crystal clear, it must be really healthy, clean water.
Sure.
But what's happening with the Turkey River?
So another function of that karst landscape, we don't have a ton of topsoil. So what that means is we've essentially got an open plumbing system. So where we have our sinkholes and stuff up on the top of the hill, if there's a farm field surrounding that, and that sinkhole is not buffered, anything applied to that field ends up here in the Turkey River days later.
So it's just not getting absorbed into the land at all.
It's not
it's
getting
just
filtered
washing
through
right
anything.
off.
And yeah, because of the steepness of the terrain, we have tremendous issues with erosion and stuff like that. So our land use practices have been really hard on the Turkey. They make the flooding worse. If you don't have perennial vegetation that can absorb that rainfall, and especially as it gets worse with climate change, we're getting more extreme rainfall events. It gets worse and worse, and every time that soil washes off, everything that's in that soil, whether it's nitrates, cow poop, you name it, that's in the river.
So even though this water looks really clear, you were saying it's on an impaired list?
Oh yeah, very much so. So like I was saying, the Iowa Secretary of State, Mike Nag, just announced $3 million in water quality initiatives, basically buffer strips along streams to try and reduce some of that nutrient transport. I believe it was the Cedar, the Des Moines, and the Turkey. So
Wow.
that tells you how high of a priority it is to try and... This one throws up a lot of red flags.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess you cannot tell just by looking at a river in terms of its sedimentation if that automatically means, oh, it looks dirty, so maybe it is dirty. Like even a beautiful, clear river like this can still be impaired. And
it varies from day to day. Like if you're getting in there today, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's those times when you see it and it's raw chocolate milk that you're worried about E. coli and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it certainly needs significant treatment for nitrates before it's drinkable, even on a day like today. But
wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for the intro. Thanks for the intro here. Let's pack up and head up the hill and see what we see up there.
Sure.
All right. I don't completely trust my camera will realize who to focus on.
Yep, that makes sense.
All right, here we go. So just a quick check for me. We're at the second meadow. This is the question I'm asking him after the audio where we talked about the naked stem, cool yellow flower.
Sunflower, yep.
Sunflower. And the question I'm starting off with Ken is, I'm curious about the forest behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Is this second growth forest?
Yes.
So does that mean that everything that we see behind you had been clear cut in the past?
Probably.
Okay.
It had at least been heavily manipulated, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we can see when we get up on top of the hill here, we'll see most of the oaks we'll see will have 2 stems, and that's always a dead giveaway that this is second growth because they resprouted from the cut.
Oh. Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I kind of interrupted you by getting the camera set up and everything here.
Sure.
Where were we? We were talking about how this area doesn't look the way a lot of people like me would expect it to look, to say this is a healthier, like, why is it more sparse looking, and why is that good?
So too much of anything is not good. That's one of the goals in habitat management, is something for everybody. So you want different structures, you want different plants growing in the appropriate places, all that good stuff. So down here, having this sparse vegetation that probably admittedly doesn't look great, that's really crucial for a lot of species, like ground nesting bugs, ground nesting birds. If I'm a little baby bird and I'm trying to pick through one of these big tall switchgrass jungles or something like that, I'm not going to be able to do it. I need these little blank spaces where I can get my bugs and I can flee quickly to cover in the adjacent taller vegetation. So having this kind of structure is really important, and this looks so different over here because could you actually pick up some of that soil? Absolutely. So if I come down here and pick up some of this dirt, we always think of prairie making the richest soils on earth.
Yeah, right about there.
Right about there. This is not the richest soil on earth, I don't think.
That is not black earth.
No.
Right?
And one of the things I always try to impress upon people is there's no good or bad soil. There's just
soil.
Just soil. And different plants are going to want to grow in different places.
Wow.
So these sandy spots are really wonderfully rich, diverse ecosystems in their own right, and look very different than a black soil prairie from central Iowa. So hence why we need to not maybe plant the same thing in both places.
It just makes me think so differently about all of it.
Yes, that's what, and it gets back again to that idea. I think we were talking without the camera on, of like, this is our wilderness. This is what I think people need to appreciate more, is we don't have, I'm not going to hike through 7 miles and get to this big mountain peak. We just don't have that kind of stuff, but we have incredible beauty and incredible diversity from 50 feet to the next.
And so here's something I think as an East Coaster that definitely hits different for me, is the landscape I see behind you. I'm going to call that and identify that as wilderness.
Yeah.
But where you're standing, that's weeds. Now, I know that's not true, but visually, I think here in the USA, we're definitely told and sold there's an idea of wilderness, and it's big dramatic landscapes and big tall trees with huge crowns, and that's woodsy stuff. But like, it's hard to do the mind shift to go, where Ken is standing is actually a different kind of wilderness, or it is wilderness, but we don't think of it as wilderness.
Yeah.
But it is. Yeah. So I'm trying to adjust my thinking as like, just like behind you is a second growth forest or a third growth forest, you're standing on a second growth forest or a third growth forest, right?
I might be standing on an older ecosystem than that. So when we think about our second and third growth, we think, if I let this go, it's going to turn into forest, right? Well, that's not the case with our remnant prairies. Those have been let go. They're not forests. Those are ancient ecosystems. They are old growth grasslands. Yeah. The same way that an old growth forest is an old growth forest, and they deserve the same protection and reverence and appreciation as those old growth forests in the Northwest do. Yeah. That's a really interesting mind shift to make. Yeah. And the other big one that I always think of is, I used to think the Wilderness Act was like the most beautiful piece of legislation America's ever passed, right? All of that poetic language in it of wilderness is a place where man himself is a visitor who does not remain. Well, why? Just because this was a managed landscape for thousands of years, I don't think the Europeans who came here and saw widespread tall grass prairie didn't think that was wilderness. Just because it was maintained by native peoples doesn't make it any less wild. We intentionally, in that language, separate ourselves from nature again. Oh, yeah. We make it different. But if we want to restore this stuff, we have to re-ingratiate ourselves to it. We have to get back in there. Yeah. These are anthropogenic systems, all of them. Yeah. Wait, what's anthropogenic? Human.
Okay.
Human-shaped. Yeah,
Got it.
Human-caused. Yeah.
Do you have some knowledge to share about how widespread Native American-led burning of the land was? Like, was it a lot, or do we have any way of really knowing how common their on-purpose burns were versus just lightning strikes?
Sure. So there are a lot of studies you can look at as far as that's what's called the fire return interval.
Oh, never heard of that.
As to how frequent a place would have burned.
Okay.
It's obviously a little difficult to tell how often it was anthropogenic, how often Native Americans might have lit them versus natural causes, but you can just kind of intuit. Think about, this is eastern Iowa. We generally don't get lightning strikes without rain. So to have had widespread prairie would have taken some unnatural conditions to create fire.
Okay.
So we know, and from journal accounts of those early records, it was quite common, anywhere from annually maybe in some of these spots. There's a lot to suggest that the kind of Aboriginal fire practices were basically annually in the fall. And it, fire breaks, forget about it. It goes where it goes. Try to protect our village site and let it do its thing. That's how you're going to manage where game is going to show up next spring. Those are going to be the first places to green up. So it was intentional, made their forests easier to walk through.
Yeah. Wow.
But we don't know for sure. Anywhere from, we think here, maybe annually, once every 3 years. You get into the oak systems, you're talking more every 7 to 10. To our, climax forest, maple basswood, that's 50 to 75 to 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they all would have burned at some point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that a phenomenon just here?
No.
Because whenever all the other places I've lived, like East Coast, North Carolina, Vermont, fire doesn't really come up in the conversations about any kind of prescribed burning.
Sure. Yeah. The southeast of the United States has about the best unbroken tradition of burning that went right from the Native Americans to those early settlers. They happen to come from parts of Europe where that was part of their practice. Oh. Back in the old country.
Wait, so it was happening, I just never learned about it.
Yep. In the Northeast, it was happening to some extent. And again, you can kind of tell because look at what happens when we walked away. We just walked past those oaks that had immediate encroachment of ironwood and elm.
Yeah.
Well, for these conditions to have persisted for thousands of years, it must have been happening for thousands of years. And once we stopped setting fires, they stopped happening. So you can kind of intuit that it was a very frequent part of Native American practices. Yeah.
Right. So obviously we humans quit setting fires after the settlers came because then the farmers were like, no more fires.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point. How many fires have happened like in the last 100 years? Huge wildfires. Yeah, we suppressed them.
Right.
And,
yeah.
Wow. Do a tiny bit of a sales pitch about people who should come hike this land.
Oh.
Do a little Clayton County conservation. Because I said to you before the camera was rolling, I was like, this is one of the most beautiful places I've been to in the state yet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But how would people get here, and what kind of hiking opportunities are here?
Yeah. So we've got on this side of the river, we've got about 2.5 miles of hiking trails. We've got another about 3.5 on the other side of the river. So that bridge,
nice.
We do have some property over on the other side there, and that's where it goes. One of them goes past that extinct Talus Algific slope.
Right.
Some really nice little single track loop, some equestrian trails over there. But I think if anybody wants to get a good sense of the diversity of habitats that used to be here in Iowa, this is the place to do it.
Wow.
Because we've got our remnant sites up here on top of the Grow Trail. We've got our remnant oak woodlands. We've got mature maple basswood forest. We've got everything here. And we've got reconstructions spanning from very early, very poorly done to really pretty nice areas.
That's awesome. I definitely think people should be coming here.
Yeah.
This place that we're standing in right now, you said this is reconstructed as well, just like the first place we stopped at. What do you think this will look like in 100 years?
That's a really good question.
Or do we have to go out 1,000 years to really see what it's going to sort of settle into?
Sure. I guess that all depends on what the stewardship looks like. It's really all dependent on what the humans do with it.
Okay.
So in 100 years from now, if if I croaked tomorrow and whoever came in after me was like, we're done with fire, we're planting this to walnuts, that's a cash crop, whatever the case may be. It's gonna, if nothing happened here, this will revert to forest.
It will.
Yes, because this is not like our remnant prairies that are robust and stable. This is not a stable ecosystem. This is something that requires a lot of intervention for us to keep it this way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Which again gets back to that problem of, by having an inadequate seed mix, you have more issues with maintenance and management. But we have to remember, it always took maintenance and management to have a prairie.
Yeah.
Going back thousands of years. They didn't just happen on their own.
Prairies didn't happen on their own?
They probably did in the first place.
Yeah.
And then it probably didn't take very long for the first humans living here 7, 8, 9,000 years ago to figure out, hey, that spot that burned last year, that's where all the elk are hanging out this spring. So all of a sudden they figure out their own kind of nomadic pastoral system, essentially, that none of the Europeans recognized when they first came here. But there's no way that the tall grass prairie would have been as widespread as it was naturally.
I did not know that.
Eastern Iowa, this is,
wow.
Like I said, when you walk away, this is forest land.
I figured for like thousands of years after the last glacier era, maybe there was no humans here at all, but now I realize that's completely wrong, because we know that humans did live at the same time as the last glacier era, 12,000, 10,000 years ago.
Yep.
So that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So as the glacier was receding and as people were already living here, it was all happening at the same time. It was all a constantly developing thing.
Yep.
Their impact on the land.
Yep.
The land sort of doing its own thing in pockets.
Yep.
That's interesting. So you're saying in this part of the state, left to its own devices, it would definitely be forest.
For the most part, it's going to convert to forest. And all but the absolute worst, crappiest soils that can't support any trees or much of anything at all. But most of it would revert to forest without intervention.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Which obviously isn't a bad thing either, but
if that happens, it truly is a cursed endeavor. Yeah, I started, when I first started here, I was just appalled that people weren't using these trails, so I started hosting a 5K here every year.
Oh, this is a great place for a 5K.
Wonderful, yeah.
Wow.
The trick is I wanted to find a time of year when I wouldn't have to compete with other races.
Yeah.
And we ended up with the third Saturday in March, which is not a great time for a 5K.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Too cold?
It's just a little cold. It's not as pretty as it is this time of year, of course.
So we're approaching a cornfield.
Yep.
Up there. I'm curious. What? This is just guessing.
Yep.
But what is a cornfield like to a bird compared to this? So you got this land here.
Oh.
So this is, restored prairie.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
You mentioned the open areas being great for birds.
Yep.
So how does a bird feel about a cornfield?
Boy, most of them probably not that good. And that's the other thing, is that is one plant that has one season that it flowers, one season that it produces seed. Over here in a prairie, we've got things blooming and going to seed from April through October.
Wow.
So there's going to be times a year, sure, where a cornfield can accommodate certain bird species, but not nearly as well as this, and not nearly as often. And this is perennial vegetation. This is standing all winter. That cornfield is gone. So there's nothing feeding them there.
Wow.
Versus they're going to come in here and eat the grass seeds all winter long, basically.
So I noticed there's another, looks like a sort of a pop-up ridge over there, too.
Yes.
Is that also part of this land? Or
Yes,
is that...
it is. Yep.
Wow. Are there trails that go up there, too?
Not yet.
Okay.
Stay tuned. I'm working on that one. But that's actually, so over on the far right-hand side here, this guy over here, is a wonderful goat prairie, limestone glade sort of thing. That's the only spot on any of our properties where we have posc flower, which is the first flower to come up in the spring. Really iconic prairie flower. I usually lead a hike out there every year, but we've just started restoring that ridge up there. So
nice. The farmers that farm out here, do they have to do a whole different thing than the farmers do?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I know it's incorrect, but I almost feel like these are like wild cornfields.
Yes, more so.
Oh, we're going up here. Okay.
We'll head up in here. Yes, so where I'm from in the Quad Cities is all flat. Every time I go back home, I'm kind of shocked I don't see any cover crops. A lot of those conservation practices that would help a lot of our water quality issues that are voluntary at the moment, they're mandatory up here. Because you will lose, at this topography, you will lose your soil if you're not putting in terracing or at least contour farming. And I don't see very much conventional tillage up here at all. I still see that when I go back home. Conventional tillage being...
Gosh, this soil is so...
Isn't it something?
I can just see what you mean about how easily this would wash away.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, I mean, this is, yeah, it's just sand.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's really, it's great. It grows, we grow up here some of the highest quality hardwood timber on the entire planet. They're walnut trees from northeast Iowa that'll standing timber go for $15,000, $20,000.
What?
A single tree. Yeah.
A single tree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's what I mean when I say there's no good or bad soils. There's just plants that like them.
Wow. So this area that we're walking up right now, it's a pretty steep hill. I'm saying this for the podcast listeners.
Yeah.
So we're ascending about, maybe 60 feet or so from where we were down in the lower area. And the reason there's a hill here is this is just a rocky ridge, right?
Correct.
And it just wasn't leveled by the glaciers.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, this used to be, the river used to go out and around and come around through here.
Wow, so at one point we could have stood here and down in that valley we would watch the river go by.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
It is. And now, yeah, so if you look at it on a topographic map, this ridge we're walking on is one little island that comes out of the Turkey River Valley.
Wow, this is really pretty up here.
Yeah, isn't it?
What's the yellow flower I see over there?
That is Canada goldenrod.
And then this white one here?
White snake root.
Are those native?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Did you guys plant them?
Nope.
So they came back on their own?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is, this is that oak savanna habitat I was talking about, or this is really more oak woodland. Subtle but important distinction. But this is all, if you look at how different the ground cover is here versus our forest we came through, you can see it.
It's so different.
Where we've got lots of light, we've got lots of vegetation. Where the forest is darker, we haven't done any management down there. We've got a lot less growing on the ground.
Wow. That is a dramatic difference.
Isn't it?
Yes. This sort of reminds me of like a term in Arizona for a type of ecosystem called a sky island.
Yes.
Like, because I mean, we can already see the beginning of where the hill's going to go down over there.
Yes.
Like, this is really interesting.
Okay. And so that's what I mean with that connectivity. It shouldn't be. It should be a mellow, this isn't 5,000 feet over a valley floor with totally different climate.
The actual sky island in Arizona, right?
Yes.
Yeah, dramatically high up off the plateau.
So this should gently grade into that prairie back down here. This is an unnatural.
Yeah.
Again, I'm separating humans from nature, which is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
But this is a novel condition to have up here be the oak woodland, then the woodland, then the prairie. They would have kind of graded into each other historically.
And the reason it's not integrated is a result of
absence of quote unquote management,
okay,
fire suppression. You start changing the character. You can actually still see in historic photos of this site how bare it was.
Oh.
In like the late 1800s, none of these trees were here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right. Okay, so everything we're seeing here then also, this is probably stripped.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. So maybe this was in cultivation up here at some point?
I don't think so, because we do have really high quality flora down here, which tells us if it was disturbed, it wasn't very much.
And so I'm just curious, this tree here, like,
cool?
How old is that stone?
Oh, good question. Well, the stone would be...
is that from the Permian Sea?
No, earlier than that.
earlier?
I think earlier. Hold on, now I'm getting my geologic dates mixed up.
I mean, I can tell that's
Silurian,
like
Ordovician, somewhere in there.
so that's like super old limestone,
Yeah.
right? With all the porous stuff in it.
So yeah, we're looking.
Wow.
I spitballing here anywhere from 350 to 450 million years old, give or take.
Why is the bottom of that tree black?
We've been burning up here.
Oh.
We've been able to successfully. That's part of the reason we have this really open condition.
Okay.
That's part of the reason we have really good herbaceous vegetation, because the bad stuff doesn't like fire. The stuff that's not adapted to Iowa doesn't like fire. So.
Okay, so here's a question, and I know all I'm asking is questions, so it's silly for me to say that. But okay, so something that confuses me still about the burning.
Yeah.
Okay, you did not reseed this area.
We did not.
Okay, let's say that plant right next to you, that one that you're touching.
Yep.
Okay, let's go back because I had you out of focus.
Yep. White snake root.
How long had it been since that was growing there, and how did it know to come back after the fire?
Boy, that is the $1 million question. Not necessarily with this one. This one is more what we would call rudderal. So.
Is that a pioneer species that just always comes back?
Yep. Yeah. It's not like a super sexy plant per se. It's
Okay.
native, it's good, but some of these things might have seed viability for many years, waiting for the right condition. And once you burned off that leaf litter and exposed it to sunlight,
Right.
then it knows to go.
So it's the exposure to sunlight that makes it happen. It's not like a serotinous cone from like in California where
Correct.
the pine trees release the seeds with heat.
Yes.
This is different. How long can a seed exist dormant in a seed bank in the ground?
Depends very much on the seed.
What's the longest one you can think of?
There's the longest term study, and I wish I could, now of course I'm going to draw a blank on the name of it, but they've kept these seeds in a jar. I'm probably butchering the story, but it's some version of they kept these seeds in a jar in the 1850s, and every 10 years they plant them and see what the viability rate was, and they're still going.
Wow.
So some of them, if stored under the right conditions, can persist for an incredibly long time.
So you can have seeds in the seed bank that somehow haven't been washed away.
Yep.
And a fire comes through and then they get their chance.
Yep. So.
And they could be 20 years old, 30 years old.
Yep.
Wow.
So I can attest personally to, we recently at one of our other properties, we drained and dredged our pond. And we have a tiny little component of remnant next to it. I mean, we're talking 20 by 20 square feet. It's this little seep that nobody could get a tractor through.
Yeah.
So it had been undisturbed. We dredged out the pond, and they're taking the dredge materials to rebuild the. I know you can listen to the birds up here. You can hear a difference too when you come up here versus down there.
Sounds like they're complaining about an owl, maybe.
Probably complaining about us.
Yeah, that's true.
But so they dredged out the pond. They used it to rebuild the material on the other side of the dike. And the next year, this plant came up called hoary puccoon that is never going to show up in a seed mix. It's extremely difficult to even acquire the seed, let alone grow it from seed.
Wow.
But it popped up. So that seed must have been buried in the lake sediment. And when they pulled it out and put it in there, and that would have been 30, 40 years that the thing would have been buried in there.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
okay.
yeah. So a very long time.
Oh my gosh.
And then the other dynamic is some of them were always here growing, but just languishing as little tiny sprout for a year, and it's their root system that's actually what's coming back. So once adequate conditions, they can start growing better.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to give the camera and you a little. Okay, Ken, tell us what we're looking at here, and I'm just going to pan around.
Sure. So we're looking down at the quarry that actually built a lot of that town site of motor that we were looking at. They had kind of a nifty little system off to the left-hand side. The trail will go down on our way out. They had a rail car system that functioned on counterweighting. So,
no way.
Yeah, so basically you would have one car at the top, one car at the bottom. You'd load the rock into the car at the top, let gravity pull it back down, and it would swing around a pulley and pull the car from the bottom back to the top. And so you could just go back and forth like that.
Okay, so the reason I stopped here is because I realized that, I realized that was an assumption when I say I realized. I'm thinking if this was a quarry, okay, that means it wasn't farmed.
Correct.
It hasn't been tilled.
Mm-hmm.
So are we kind of looking into the past here?
Yeah, very much so.
So when was the last time this land was probably cleared?
Was used for anything? Would have been last part of the 19th century.
So this land has been, what we're seeing here on the edges of this quarry,
Yep.
that's kind of been allowed to rewild since about 1880.
Yep. Yeah, give or take. I would imagine maybe the Klink family might have had their cows wander up here from time to time, but
Okay.
certainly not to any huge degree.
That is really interesting. So is most of what we're seeing out there, is that wild native stuff, or
Yep.
is okay?
Yep. So we can see this taller white flower we see over here.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, I
false,
see those.
false bone set, one of the eupatoriums. That's going to be a nice native wildflower. We can see that waving kind of clump of Indian grass, but notice how it's not dominating the entire site.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing's dominating.
No,
It's
nothing's
all-
dominating.
It's all really diverse.
And look at how that, for being unmanaged, I would walk through that without feeling like I needed long pants on.
That's why I wanted
This
to
is what
stop.
I'm talking about.
That's why I wanted to stop here. This is so interesting how it's left on its own and it's really diverse.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. And yeah, we've never seeded anything up here, never planted anything. And it's wonderful. Yeah, we've got some mully grass down here, some Muhlenbergia. We can see kind of that little, just to the right of that oak tree, see the little kind of wisps of purple there? Is purple love grass.
Wow.
So just, yeah, wonderfully diverse. Great spot to come up and look for reptiles. This is, I come up here and look for skinks a lot. I've got some pieces of plywood down there as cover boards.
Oh.
Because one of my goals in life is to find rattlesnakes on one of these sites.
Is that rare?
Yes.
Okay.
And talking to the old timers, they certainly used to be here. They would require that kind of very sunny goat prairie habitat to do really well. So hopefully, I don't know if they hung on. If they're not here now, they're probably not going to come here. But
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
You were saying there's another good view to get here?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's take a
Yeah.
stroll.
We can get down into the quarry proper, or at least look down into it. Yeah.
I'm just laughing again though, Kenny, because as I was saying when the camera was off, where is everybody?
I just lost a skink in here.
You just saw one?
Just saw. Yep. Went running right into that little crack in there.
Wow. And the hill here, just so folks can see this, so the white stuff you see through the camera there, way down at the bottom, that's the road. So this is pretty much, I mean, it's not quite a 90-degree slope.
No,
but
it's pretty steep, though.
It's like 80?
Yeah. I'd give it somewhere
That
in
is
there, yeah.
really, really steep. If you
35-40% grade, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty darn steep. And I was just telling Kenny, I can't believe this place is not inundated with people hiking and enjoying this place. Like,
Well, I really shouldn't have invited you out here for that very reason.
it's so pretty, it's just preposterous.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, as we come out here, there's that little purple fella. That's a harebell. Those would be a good indicator. That usually isn't something that gets seeded into a prairie mix.
Okay.
But it's real indicative of these rockier outcrop sites.
For that huge building, I kind of thought the quarry would be way bigger, but
It is bigger than just this little hole.
okay.
So they quarried all off of this hillside. We can, like, this little shelf back here is all.
Oh, so even
all
where
part of
we're
it, too.
standing
Yep.
was part of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, here's some of our little blue stem right here.
This is little blue stem right here.
Yep.
This kind of shiny silvery.
Yeah, this guy right here. This wispy fellow.
Okay.
Oh, back behind you here is a bunch of butterfly milkweed. And this is one of the other things you can tell, which we can't see at this time of year, but this is a very different color than most of the other butterfly milkweed you see.
Huh.
It's much more like kind of a rich red. Almost like your shirt color red.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, here's some of our purple lovegrass. Something we see in seed mixes now, but it doesn't show up very often, but it loves this, I mean, we don't really have soil here.
Yeah, it's so thin. I mean, there's barely, there's not even an inch of soil between
No.
our foot and the bedrock there.
Yeah.
So there we can really see the face of the quarry there.
Yep.
Wow. And I have to say, it surprises me to see cottonwood in Iowa. I just always think of cottonwood as like alpine. like an
heavens
alpine
no.
species?
No.
No?
Oh yeah, loves any riverbed all across the country. You'll see cottonwood. Yeah, we've got some elm back there, and this is actually birch, I believe, over here. We're looking at these white stems you're looking at.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. And then
one of
looking down inside of there. So this is just looking straight down in. What's that predominant grass kind of in the middle?
That's Muhlenbergia. It's one of the mully grasses. I want to say it's Muhlenbergia sylvestris. Don't quote me on that. Or at least I got close.
I just love the idea that I really feel like we're sort of looking back in time to like how it was. But of course, this is how it is right now.
This is how it is right now. But look at how different that is than the prairie we were looking at down below.
Whoa.
Right? You don't see any of the big blue stem. We don't see any of the Indian grass in there.
Whoa.
Completely different.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
Totally different character, totally different soil. But again, we're, spitting distance from where we were.
Okay. Man.
Sure, yeah.
But all right. First, describe where we are right now.
So this is kind of the very end. We're right overlooking the motor mill right now. So we're looking over this very steep edge, very southern tip of the Grau Memorial Oak Savannah, and this is just off of that little dip back there is kind of our highest quality bit of goat prairie. Again, it's very small.
Okay.
But we were talking about this being more characteristic Oak Savannah. So if we're looking back here like at this tree, we can see rather than growing straight up, he kind of leaned himself out to the side. He's got a second big stem coming off of him there. If we look back here, this next gnarly two-stem thing off to the left here, that big oak tree over there, that's an iconic Savannah tree right there because you think they're spreading themselves out because they've got the room to work with. So versus where we were coming up before through the oak woodland, they're going straight up because they've got a lot more canopy competition.
Okay. I was thinking that if a tree like these had tons of light, then they would just go straight up into the sky. But he was saying that oaks don't really do that when they have open room to run.
Not necessarily. They like to spread wide.
Okay.
They would prefer to spread themselves out and get that higher leaf area. And when you think about where we are on a landscape position too, these guys are getting hammered by wind. They're getting hammered by storms every time in a much more open forest, or condition, which is where they would have come up.
They're like sticking up here in the jet stream.
Exactly. Yep. So they're kind of getting brutalized in a way a lot of the rest of the forest trees are not.
Wow. You were also just saying something about dynamic equilibrium. Can you chat about that briefly?
Oh, this is the spot to talk about that. So we were saying my joke of I blame Save the Rainforest for destroying Iowa's forests. So we all kind of came up with this idea that places were being logged that shouldn't be logged, and that eventually got to being equated to anything that hurts trees is bad. That's not what these systems were, and that's not when they're at their healthiest. So dynamic equilibrium means they need constant disruption to stay the same. So if we're looking out here, so like I said, over here kind of off of the edge, this is our really nice high quality goat prairie, and we can see all those cedars behind it, the evergreen trees.
Cedars kind of on the cliff edge.
All the way along.
Yep.
This all would have been goat prairie going all the way down to the mill. That fire exclusion meant that those cedars came in. So we replaced hundreds of species that would have been on that goat prairie with one in those cedars. And we did that because we thought fire was bad, we thought cutting trees was bad, and I still hear it to this day. When I come up here, and every year we've been trying to kind of shave a little bit off of the edges, and I have to do it that way. I have to boil the frog, so to speak, because if I take everything all at once, the blowback from the public is immense every time they see trees coming down, because they don't quite understand. And we're getting better about educating people about that, but in western Iowa, that's much more de rigueur for them. They've got a little bit more ranching and pastoral awareness, so they kind of don't see cedars the same way we do here. But we innately, as human beings, we love trees. I love trees. So it is hard to see them come down. But the satisfaction you get after doing the work and you come back the next year and there's lead plant or Culver's root where that cedar used to be, then the proof is in the pudding, and it's all you can do to stop yourself from running out here with a chainsaw and just going to town.
Wow. And so also you were saying, so like, is there a way for a person walking anywhere in Iowa to look at an oak tree and say, oh, I think that's a really old oak?
Oh, sure.
What would be the telltale signs of that?
So one of the dead giveaways for when we're seeing savannas is that open grown form, and you'll see it often extinguished in forests that have been let go. They haven't been burned or disturbed for a long time. You'll see big branches sticking out to the side that are dead.
Okay.
And that tells you that tree grew up in a much more open environment, and once whatever that regular disturbance regime was, whether it was grazing or fire or logging, whatever, once that went away, the forest grew up around that thing as well. We can also look at when trees get old, they get wrinkly, just like we do. So foresters will refer to that as tight-barked. So tight-barked means something is growing. It's growing fast. It's growing really vigorous. As these trees get old, and these trees might be 200, 250 years old. I don't know.
I was going to ask that. Can you tell by looking at an oak tree? Like, is there a way to look at this oak tree here that's in frame and go, oh, judging by the size and the circumference of the base of the trunk, that could only be 50 years old, for example. Is there a way to do that?
In certain contexts, yes. So like where we came through, the nice, healthy, straight growing white oak back there, we could reasonably surmise these trees are probably similar age that we're looking at down here. And foresters will use what's called a growth factor to estimate the age of these things. So by species, this diameter typically correlates to this age range. Where that gets blown up is in situations like this. So we're up here, this is really bad soil like we were talking about. We can see right over here, bare rock. This is bedrock right here. So he doesn't have a lot to work with, our tree back here, in terms of soil. So his growing conditions are less than optimal. So that growth factor really only works if you've got a somewhat...
So a same-size tree in one part of the state, different soil conditions from somewhere else.
Yep.
Okay, I see.
And then the other great... we're not quite close enough to see them here, but we can see these cedars, for example, are growing tall and straight and maybe 5-6 inch diameter. As you travel around, especially here in northeast Iowa, these rock outcrops, you'll see gnarly cedars that are maybe no taller than you or I, but crazy root systems. And I know these cedar trees are certainly less than 100 years old. Those big gnarly edge cedars, there's a gentleman out of Stevens Point who's been doing some studies and found those can be 600 or 700 years old. Yeah. So again, there your growth factor doesn't work because it's growing out of bare rock.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he's interested in it for a climate reconstruction angle.
So there's trees in this state that can be up to 600 years old that are still alive.
Yeah.
That we think, right? Just to be scientifically accurate, we think.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. So those, I mean, again, I can only compare all this to the East Coast where you can sort of be like, oh, a tree that big can only be roughly this old because we pretty much all know everything here in the state of North Carolina, except for Joyce Kilmer Forest, was clear cut as recently as 40 or 50 years ago.
Sure.
And so we can almost always just go, oh, it's a 40-year-old tree.
Sure.
Right? But so they're never much bigger than these.
No.
But even those cedars, they could be older than 40 years, even though they're really thin.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, they're just not growing on a great site.
I would say that's a 15-year-old tree, maybe a 20-year tree at the most.
Oh, no, it's definitely older than that.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And so, that gets further confounded. The logging history in this part of Iowa is a little bit more complicated than it is in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Because we grow such incredibly high-value trees.
Oh, could you talk about, you mentioned a fact when the camera was off about a walnut tree and how much a good walnut tree would go for on the market?
Sure. So turn right around here. Can I... here.
Oh, yeah, just bring that with you. Just watch out for the cord there. So here, I'll pick it up behind you.
So this walnut tree right back, we've got our dead tree. Just to the right of it here is a black walnut. And that's in pretty good shape. So a nice walnut tree like that with no defects around the face of it, a good long stick, maybe 20 or 30 feet before you hit the first branch.
Okay, which that has. That's maybe 20, 25 feet to the first branch.
So she's got that, that one little branch off to the side, which immediately renders this concept null and void. But those big, beautiful, mature, super straight-trunked walnuts grown in northeast Iowa are what would be called veneer quality logs. They might go for $15,000 as a standing tree. So, $15,000 to $20,000. And it's just because we have just the right mix of soil and climate. The same reason we grow great corn. We grow in places that we can't get a tractor, which is like here in Northeast Iowa, we grow fantastic walnuts.
So people actually plant walnuts as a cash crop?
Oh, yes. Yes. Big money in that. Yep. And it's funny because they grow like weeds. So, yeah. So they're a wonderful crop that way. It's renewable. They're relatively easy to grow around here.
But it is a native.
It is.
Is that accurate to say it's a native sort of deal?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, for sure.
Wow.
So because of that, we have a little more, like, you go to Minnesota or something like that, like they just block cut, which I'm not denigrating that, but that's just how their system works, their silvicultural system, like a Christmas tree farm. So up here, I always think of it like they're growing the tree version of corn. We're growing orchids here. So rather than seeing our land get clear cut, the loggers will come through and pick the best tree, that is bad practice, but they'll come through and pick the best trees. So you might have this guy got left because he's an ugly, gnarly oak and nobody wants him. So he might be 250 years old, but the rest of the stand might have been cleared. Like you run into a lot of sites like that where they took the good straight stems and left these kind of gnarlier guys so they can get very old.